Hey everybody, it's Allison again, stlprostretch.com. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you. Today we're going to be going over abductors and adductors. Abductors being your hips, your outer hips, and then adductors being your inner thigh. And we're going to go over Pigeon. So maybe give you a different perspective on Pigeon and how to get a little bit deeper into it, and also add some resistance to Pigeon. So as usual, work within your range of motion. If something hurts, stop doing it, and always remember to move and resist. So we're going to start today with the supine version of the Figure 4 stretch. So come to the mat. You might need something for your head, or not. And we're going to lie on our back. I'm going to cross my right ankle over my left and lift both legs. I'm going to take my right hand, put it through the hole I've created, and the left hand around the back of the left thigh. I'm going to interlace my fingers. Now, if you cannot get into this position, grab your yoga strap or a towel or a tie, an old tie. Old ties are great for this. And feed it through the hole, and then feed it through, and then you have something to hang on to. Because I know not everybody can grab the back of their thigh from teaching classes. So this is another alternative. Hopefully after a while I'll be able to reach. So I'm going to grab the back of my thigh, and then I'm going to push my right ankle out. I'm pushing it into the thigh. So as I push, I'm going to push, and then my upper body is just going to be dragged along for the right. I am not lifting and doing an abdominal crunch at all. My upper body is actually the resistance. So it's the counterweight. So I'm pushing, and then I'm going to keep pushing, and then I'm going to let my upper body win. So as I pull back, I'm going to pull the knees in toward the chest. So push out, upper body comes along for the ride, keep pushing, and then pull back. Always moving and resisting. Now, we don't want the hips to come up off the mat. If the hips come up off the mat, I had a guy in class that used to always pull up like this, which is fine. It's not going to hurt anything as long as your back is okay with it. And it is a great lower back stretch if that's what you want, but we are here to stretch the hips, so you might want to stick with just keeping your hips down. And then once they pop up, then you're kind of done. All right, and then I'm going to take my left hand and I'm going to grab hold of my right foot. My right foot is going to kick out. So my right foot kicks out, and my left arm is going to hang onto it as it kicks out and then drag it over to the left. This is a great piriformis stretch. If you've got a tight piriformis, pushing out, you can even get into the glute medius, glute minimus a little bit. I've got my foot dorsiflexed mostly, so keep the integrity of the ankle. We don't really want to sickle the foot. It's not a good pattern of movement to get into. We want to keep the ankle strong. And then we'll switch sides. So left ankle crosses over right, lift, take the left hand, put it through the whole right hand through the back. I'm going to push my left foot out into the right thigh the entire time. Push, keep pushing. Upper body comes along for the ride, and then I'm going to pull back with my upper body. Now my left ankle is still pushing into that thigh. That's the resistance. So we have resistance, upper body is resistance going up for strength, and then for stretch, the ankle is pressing into the thigh, my arms are bending, and let that upper body win. Now, if you are really flexible, and this is just not doing anything for you, then it should feel different than just a passive figure 4. It really should. Because our muscles are expanding and contracting, so we're building elasticity in the muscle, which is good. You might want, if you're really flexible, just take this elbow and just push the knee out. And then I'll give you a little bit more. And a lot of people like to do that in class. They get here and just push that elbow so the knee goes out a little bit farther. And then, after we do some of these, how many? 8, 10, 12, however many you want to do. You could do these all day if you want to. And then I'm going to grab the foot. So I'm just grabbing the outside of the foot. Right leg is going to extend, and I'm pushing the foot out, holding the foot with the hand, and then I'm going to drag the foot across the body. I'm kind of intentionally pulling this hip down away from my head to get a better stretch, and pushing my knee out too. So everything's pushing out away from my head. This is really a delicious stretch. And again, make sure that foot is dorsiflexed. This is not a ki-hara stretch. It's just something actually. I don't like name dropping too much, but one of my first yoga seminars that I ever took, Desiree Rumbaugh, she demonstrated that it's a Piriformis Stretch. We didn't add the movement and resistance, but I was so taken with it, I just thought, well, we can make that into a resistance stretch. And pretty much any stretch can be made into a resistance stretch. You're just moving and resisting. So that makes it a little more functional. And I think it keeps it a little safer, too, because you're not just yanking the muscle. It has to be able to lengthen while it's contracting. Okay, next we're going to do the inner thigh stretch that would match up with that. And it's also going to be supine. We're going to do 2 versions. So lie on your back. I'm going to be away from you so you can see what I'm doing, and also so my butt's not in your face. If you are deaf, you need the subtitles on. You can do that. So lie on your back, and then feet up. Your legs don't have to be straight. They can be bent. And this might be a little hard on your hip flexor, so it might not be for everyone. All right, we're going to open the legs to the side. I'm going to take my hands and put them on the inner thigh. My arms are going to push out. My feet are going to push in. So arms push out as the feet push in for strength. I'm turning my toes out a little bit as I bring the heels together. And then I'm going to let my arms win, and the toes are going to turn in, and the heels are going to turn out to get that adductor stretch. In and out. The arms are always pushing out, and the heels are always pushing in. It's just a matter of letting your legs win and then letting your arms win. Now, if you're really, really flexible with this, just work on strength. Your arms are going to wear out long before your legs, because obviously the legs are usually stronger than the arms. Unless you're one of those super bodybuilders that's like super top heavy and has major, major arm strength. And as you can see, I'm getting a little bit deeper into this. My hip flexors are probably a little bit like, my hip flexors are getting a little tired of keeping my legs up this way. But yeah, if you're really flexible here and you can do the straddle splits, well then just focus on wearing these puppies out. Because the more you work these inner thigh muscles, the more open your hips are going to get for some of the other things like pigeon. All right, let's come back out. We're going to do a quick hip flexor stretch, and then we're going to do pigeon. So for the hip flexor stretch, kneeling, you might want to put something underneath your knee. You might want something for balance, a chair, or one of those foam rollers. Turn on its end, it's fine too. So I'm up. I'm going to do a lunge. I'm going to pull. Imagine my inner thighs pulling together. Do the opposite of sticking my butt out. So I've got my front heel pulling back knee pulling forward, and then we'll move forward and back. So I feel like the adductor, the supine adductor stretch, the one you're on your back, the hip flexors do get a little tight, a little tired. So if they do, just stop and do this stretch, and then go back to it. See if that helps. Now, as far as a problem-solving formula, this is actually the T quadrant. So we've got abductor, adductor, so this way, that way, and then hip flexor, and central hamstring would be the other stretch. So you could add that in if you wanted to, just for time's sake. I'm not. But that stretch would be, one of them would be just here, you're pulling the heel toward you, keep pulling the heel toward you and back it up. And that feels so good right now, I can't even tell you. So yeah, you might want to add that in there. I'm only going to do a few. But I have a couple of videos on the T quadrant. And I'm always making new ones just to be fresh. I took a little vacation for a while, so I didn't do any videos. But I'm back at it now, right? So then we'll do the other side, the hip flexor. And this one, I don't even know why I turned around. I'm just bringing my left knee forward and inner thighs pulling together. So imagine this back knee pulling forward and the front heel pulling back, scissoring, and then moving forward and back. Do the opposite of sticking your butt out. Posterior pelvic tilt if you're one of those body people. Yeah. Posterior pelvic tilt just means, like, if you imagine your pelvis is like a bowl of water and we want the water to spill backwards. So we don't want to be tilted forward. And then, oh my gosh, this feels wonderful. And then take your blocks and pull the heel toward you. Keep pulling the heel toward you to pull back. And then you would get your central hamstring stretch. I'm not going to do too many of these. And before we get to pigeon, it's going to be a little bit longer video than I thought. We're going to do a little bit of TFL. So for this TFL stretch, go ahead and sit down. And I'm going to take my right leg forward. Left ankle is going to cross over. My arms are just behind me. And I'm going to roll this knee to the side and push the other knee toward the ankle. So that's the stretch, just in and out. Now you could just sit here and do that. That's really the stretch. This one takes a lot of repetition, I feel like, to make any progress. So we don't have a lot of range of motion. Even if you're just here, just keep working it. You'll get there. Just takes a lot of repetition. And then switch sides. So right ankle crosses over, and then knee's going to go out to the side. I'm going to push the knee down toward the ankle. Oh. See, I knew the reason I did this. I ran yesterday, and my TFL is kind of like screaming at me today, like, stretch me! Stretch me! So yeah, sometimes I go by the T quadrant and X quadrant, and I use the problem solving, but sometimes it's a little intuitive. And this TFL stretch is not one of our basic like stretches for abductors, because most of the figure 4 stretches catch it a little bit, but this is just totally isolating it. So for those of you who have a tight IT band, it's a good one to do, because this TFL feeds right into that IT band. All right, then we're going to go on to pigeon. So grab some blocks. Oh, I forgot about the second adductor stretch. We're going to do the second adductor stretch. Socks. I am going to put my socks on. Now, this is for hardwood floor. If you have carpets, you're going to need gliders or something, probably, because like furniture gliders, or you could take some paper plates and tape them to your foot, or Frisbees work. Anything slick. Otherwise, now I don't use blocks for this usually. If you're not that flexible, I would use a chair out in front of you. So just put the chair out in front. But you've got the blocks here, and I'm up. And I'm just going to slide my feet open until I feel a stretch, and then I'm going to pull them back together again. So if you are working on straddle splits, this is a great way to do it. Any of your splits, actually. Just get yourself a couple chairs, some socks, and pull in and out of it. That way your muscles are, this is actually, a functional movement. I used to be able to do the full straddle splits. I don't care about doing the full straddle splits anymore, because I'm not a contortionist, and I'm not taking yoga pictures really anymore because my inner thighs just got totally overstretched doing it that way. But you can, of course, you can work yourself into it doing this easily. Get pretty close, you know. At some point, I'll do a video on so you want to do the splits. Woo! All right. So that is another way to do your adductors. It's one of my favorites. That's my favorite adductor stretch, and I don't do it enough because usually my hips are so tight. That's what I focus on. But if I would focus on my adductors and my abductors, then they balance each other out a little bit more. So we're going to get into this pigeon stretch. Knee comes forward. I have my kind of foot turned in a little bit, so like 45-degree angle. Now, I know a lot of people like to do it like way out here. I really don't because that's a good way to pull your sacrum out, and nobody wants to do that. So, because all those ligaments are just held in there, you know, very delicately. So, I would say start here, even start here if you have to. You know, 45-degree angle is great. Now, if you can't do this, start here. That's fine too. And then you won't have this, we're going to do some pulses. You'll have to just move forward with your upper body, push the ankle and the knee into the mat, and then move forward like that and back. And then as you get better, you can start to straighten this leg out a little bit, straighten it more and more. And then you would be in your full pigeon. I'm going to grab my blocks again. So awkward. Sorry about that. So you might want to use your blocks for this one. So we're in pigeon. Now I'm going to pull my knees towards each other. My inner thighs are going to pull together, and it's going to lift me up. You can see my whole carpet's moving right now. And then I'm going to relax back into it slowly. So pulling up and then relaxing back into it. Whew. And then after I've even done 3 of these, I'm so much deeper in my pigeon because I've warmed the muscles up. And then we did all that earlier to warm the muscles up. So if you're in a yoga class and you're just getting to that, you know, sometimes you go to the yoga class, you get in the pigeon, and you're like, I'm not ready for this yet. Try pulsing it a few times. Nobody's going to notice. Just kind of pulse it. And then, you know, you could technically go all the way up and all the way down. And my opinion is, if you can do that, then you have every business being where you are in pigeon. But if you can't, then most likely you're overstretching because all your entire body weight is being pushing down on those, just yanking the muscles. So make sure that you can do a little pulse. I'm going to switch sides now. Again, if you're not this flexible, start here, push the ankle, and kind of lean forward and come back out of it. That's your hip stretch. And then as you get better, you can start to straighten this back leg and turn into your full pigeon. Well, it's modified pigeon. It's not full pigeon. But so we're here, and then I'm going to pull my knees, pull my inner thigh together, and then slowly let it go. And the reason that I think it's so important to be able to pull in and out of it is because I have overstretched myself in pigeon, doing all kinds of things like, you know, pulling this foot and then twisting and all this stuff. And yeah, sure enough, just yank that sacroiliac joint right out. And let me tell you, sacroiliac joint dysfunction is not what you want. So let's be safe about it and just make sure that we can still pull in and out of it. So if you can pull out of this, then you have every business being here. If you can't, then maybe you shouldn't go down so far. Maybe you should just move through that range of motion that you can pull in and out of it. And I don't mean to be a breach, but I've had my own injuries from yoga as well, from overstretching. So this method just seems to make my body feel a lot better. And I think that's one of the ways that you can say, okay, how is this different than passive stretching? How do you feel after you do it? That's what I always ask my class. And usually they're like, wow, yeah, I don't have any complaints right now. And as I go throughout the day, how do you feel? No, I feel pretty good. So that's kind of the difference. Yeah. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of it. And I will see you next time. Happy stretching.